Okay, so I think one of the hardest parts about creation is trying to pick your gear. I mean, trying to figure out what camera and lens combination you need in order to get out and shoot, and then having to pack that away and be able to go out and do your thing can really kind of get in the way, which is why sometimes I personally just love to just go out with my phone. But even when shooting with my phone, I still want a little bit more, which is why I recently been testing out the Moment lenses. And I'm going to tell you guys why I think this might actually solve the issue I have with creating with my phone. What's good, creative fan? Brandon Washington here. And first of all, if you're brand new to the channel, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because this channel is all about filmmaking gear, tips, and tutorials. But in today's video, we're taking a look at the Moment lens system for the smartphone. Now, Moment is a company that makes accessories for your smartphone, thinking 100% about filmmakers and photographers. And honestly, I've absolutely loved the system that I've been using so far. Now, whenever you want to hop into the Moment lens system, it starts off with picking out a case. Now, all of their lenses attach directly to this case, and they have cases for tons of different smartphones, so you can definitely check out the links below to figure out which phone you have and which case you'll need. But when it came to picking out cases, they have some really awesome looking ones. Like, for example, I decided to go with this wood grain kind of case, especially since it matched my Super 8mm film camera that I have, and I thought it was just a really cool little design. Now, once you have your case all picked out, now it comes down to the fun part, and that's picking out lenses. Now, they have tons of different lenses to choose from, whether you're going with a wide angle, a macro, a super fisheye lens, or even a telephoto lens. You can choose whatever lens you want. Personally, I decided to go with the 16mm and the 60mm, which is their normal wide angle lens and their telephoto lens. Both of these are two different focal ranges that I thought I could easily work with, and that honestly are kind of more so the style that I typically go with my DSLR or mirrorless camera. So this is why I went with these. But now that I have my lenses picked out, now we have to jump into one of the really cool new things that they actually came out with, which is their app. So Moment actually came out with this app not too long ago, and basically it gives you complete manual control over your cell phone's camera. So whether you're using one of their lenses or not, this is still an awesome app to be able to do all your photography in. One of my favorite things is the fact that on an iPhone, this will allow you to shoot in RAW. You have basic control over things like shutter speed, ISO, white balance, and it also allows you to have this really cool kind of fake focus press, which I think was really neat. So if you kind of start pressing down on the shutter button on the screen, if you kind of half press it, it'll actually focus, and if you fully press it, you actually feel it take a picture. Very similar to like an actual DSLR or mirrorless camera. So I thought that was a really neat feature. And not only does it work in all these things for photos, but it does everything in video as well. Alright, so now that we've got our case, we've got some lenses, and now we know how to use the app, now let's actually jump into how does this thing really work. Now, when it comes to using your cell phone for photography, the biggest issue that I typically run into is that there's not enough focal ranges to choose from. And the second you start zooming in, you really start ruining the quality of your images or video. This is where these Moment lenses really come into play. For example, with the wide angle lens, this allows you to get way more in frame than you ever could, even if you just tried to take a bunch of steps back. Eventually, you would still run into an issue of kind of the depth that you're able to capture. So for example, this was a statue that I was standing in front of, and I was like, cool, let me go ahead and grab a quick photo of this. And you can see that I'm barely able to get the entire statue in the photo. But when I quickly throw on this wide angle lens, you can immediately see how much more of the statue, the area around it, that I'm actually able to capture. And that is all being done strictly by this lens. Now, not to be outdone, the telephoto lens is honestly just as good in its own way. For example, this is a shot taken with the telephoto lens on the 2x camera on the iPhone. When you are using the app from Moment, you can actually control which camera you're going in and out of. So you can tap the little 2x, that'll switch over to the 2x camera on the iPhone. And then if you put the telephoto lens on top of that, it really extends how much you're able to actually zoom in and get a good shot. So here's a picture of the top of this building that I was able to get with the 2x lens along with the 60mm. And then when I took it off, I was actually able to still get a pretty good zoom out of the iPhone. And then you can see with this last shot just how much of the building I was able to get with the regular wide angle lens on the iPhone. I mean, comparing the two, looking at the zoomed in shot and the wide shot, it is absolutely amazing that I'm able to zoom in that far without having to have cropped my image at all or had to use any type of digital zoom on my image. Now, you would think that all this would be all great and that Moment would be all set with this, but Moment kind of takes it a little bit further. See, Moment understands that when it comes to photography on your smartphone, that yes, having lenses is really great, but being able to really control your video or your photos is the most important thing. And so actually they came out with this really cool little adapter that will allow you to attach filters onto their Moment lenses. Now the nice thing is that you don't actually have to, screw anything onto the lenses themselves. They actually have this little adapter that you can buy and actually attach to all of their lenses, which is really awesome. And so for example, I have this little variable ND filter that's a 62mm, and it works great, especially when I want to shoot video. One of the biggest issues that I have with smartphones is that you can't control the aperture, which kind of eliminates some of your control over the exposure. But by being able to use filters like this variable ND filter, you're really able to dial in your exposure just right on the iPhone. Now, clearly, a lot of people are going to look at this and say, wow, that is complete overkill for a cell phone. And you know what? You might be right. But I will say that there is no reason, if you can, to do whatever it takes to get the best image out of your camera. And in this case, when it comes to shooting with an iPhone or any other smartphone, if you want to try to get the best image possible out of it, using accessories like these wide angle lenses, telephoto lenses, and even ND filters will allow you to really dial in those settings just the way you need it. I look at all this stuff and that I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like these lenses are really inexpensive. I mean, they're not nearly as expensive as other like camera lenses, but in the smartphone world they are definitely the more expensive lenses. But who would this be for then? If you're someone who is trying to get into photography, are these lenses great for you, or are these only for professionals? Honestly, I think that these lenses can be really for anybody. I think if you are someone who is just getting started and you don't even know which DSLR to go with, what lenses to go with, personally, I tell most people that they should really start with their smartphone and start by getting a handful of these lenses. These lenses attached to a smartphone can really unlock what you can do. You can get very creative with these lenses. And on top of that, if you're using the app in order to actually manually control your settings, you really learn a lot of the basics that you're gonna need to know anyway when you step up to a full-fledged mirrorless or DSLR camera. All in all, I've been really excited and happy with the kind of the progress that I've been able to make with these lenses. I will say that one of my favorite things is that they do come in these nice little bags that you can easily see which one is which because they're marked on the outside, and they also do a great job at taking care of the lens when you're not using it. But the other thing is that these lenses are small enough that you can easily throw them into any bag that you're currently carrying. Have your iPhone or whatever smartphone you have with the Moment case on at all times and be able to quickly use these lenses in order to get images that you otherwise wouldn't be able to capture. But there you have it, guys. That's my thought on the Moment lenses. If you are interested in these, check out the links that I have down below. It does help the channel when you click on those links to buy. On top of that, if you haven't already, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button because, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking a lot about filmmaking gear, tips, tutorials, and photography on this channel, so you're not going to want to miss any of those things. But until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.